Chronicles. Hope you are enjoying the episode so far. And yeah, I have been very excited to bring all these different episodes for all the, subscribers that are very kind enough to follow my channel and give me feedback. So what's the plan for today? Well, before we start, I want to give like some preface of why today's episode is what it is. So, being a research oriented person myself, I am always curious to hear opinions and perspectives from other researchers and scientists, especially about the large language models and everything that is going on in this realm. So, today I have Marzieh. She is a senior research scientist at Cohere for AI to talk about just that, which means large language models, multilingual models, LLM evaluations, and more. So, welcome, Marzieh. How are you doing today?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well as well. Can you tell our audience where you're joining from?
I'm actually based in Amsterdam. So I came here to do my PhD and I loved it here, so decided to stay.
Very cool. You know what? Amsterdam has been on my very long list of places to go. So, hopefully one day soon I'll visit your neck of the woods.
Yeah, I would say maybe not at this time of the year, but definitely
Okay,
spring. It's lovely.
awesome. That's a good tidbit to know. Thank you. So yeah, so
But
without further ado, let's jump right into the fun conversation about LLMs. Um, I want to start with my favorite question. So, do you have a favorite LLM application? And if yes, which is it and why?
yeah, actually, one thing that I find it's very useful sometimes that I use language models for is when I'm looking for a particular word that I cannot really remember, but I have a lot of descriptions for that. Like the other day, I was looking for a verb that can describe making something that is long lasting happening in a short period of time. Like I wanted to describe something and I was wondering whether there
Hmm.
was a verb for that description, and there was. So it was really nice to find the answer for.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I think yeah, LLMs do come really handy. Like I use these whether it's Coral or ChatGPT, I use them to just, help me with my English grammar most of the times. So yeah, I can imagine why it is your favorite. Awesome. So I know you work at Cohere for AI, and could you tell us like what is your current research that you're working on?
Yeah, so at Cohere for AI, we are interested in doing research and collaborating with people who are doing research, both on the industry and academia side. And the main track that we have been working on for the past year and a half that this lab started has been on language models, on different
Mm-hmm.
aspects of improving these language models. So me in particular, I have been involved in a few projects working on evaluation of models, on efficiency and data pruning, as well as a huge multilingual problem that was really turned into a large collaboration across the globe with different students and researchers, which is the AYA project. Uh, I can talk about AYA a bit more later on, but one of the main interests I personally have is multilinguality. My background is on machine translation, and I think making these models fluent in different languages is something that still hasn't happened, and there are a lot of things that
Right.
we can do there. So I'm very much interested in those types of problems.
Those are good problems to solve. I totally agree with it. And given that, yeah, you mentioned like you have been, you and your team at Cohere for AI work on a lot of large language models. So, what are your thoughts over this, the huge trend or rather growth in LLMs that's been happening around the globe?
Yeah, I mean, it's much easier to explain to my parents what I do. Like everyone now knows what language models are, or to
Right.
different extent, they know they have interacted with it probably at some point in the past year. I think it's, in some sense, it's great. So I feel like a lot of nuanced problems that us researchers have been working on the labs at universities, at companies. Now there is this like huge and also impressive application for it that has an
Mhm.
impact on a lot of people. So I think that aspect of it is quite nice and impressive. When I think about the global access and distribution, that also comes into play the multilingual part. So
Okay.
whether like the English speaking population, they have been using language models quite well for the past year. But once you go to other languages, the quality decreases, and
Mhm.
as a result, the usability of these models also decrease. So I guess that's also another reason that for these models to become like fully useful globally, why working on multilingual models are important.
Nice, nice. Yeah, multilingual model has been on my mind as well, and yeah, I have some more questions around that. But yeah, but before we talk, I have this very interesting question because I know I have been asked this question a lot, but I want to know from your point of view as a researcher, how do you keep up with this ongoing fast-paced research in LLMs or just in general generative AI?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I don't think anyone can say that they are keeping up, to be honest. I feel like there's
Yeah.
a lot coming out every day. Uh, but we are all trying to. So I think that's how it is for now. I do try, especially for the specific projects that I'm working on at each time. So if I'm working on, for instance, the last year, the data pruning project, I was trying to keep track of that particular area of research more closely. So just based on the archived daily
Mm,
emails and just like Twitter. So like when people would share their publications, uh, but it's really hard to do that level of detail of keeping in up to date with recent works when the area that you want to do is large. It's not just like one niche or one particular
yeah.
problem. So yeah, I think I will admit that I have been missing some of these papers that have been impactful or have become impactful after all. But it's the best that we have been doing also at our lab is having regular research groups, sharing
Hmm.
interesting papers on Slack. Like if someone finds something interesting, share that. Uh, Again on Twitter. So having this like network of colleagues and friends, it helps to hopefully stay more or less up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, I am totally with you on that. Like those research groups or just having somebody like give a summary of what paper they read. It's like just so much useful because I don't know how many papers you could read, even like you have done your PhD. I'm currently doing mine. It's like there's only so much I could do. But yeah, I think these techniques and like social media have been really great in this case. Yeah, I totally agree with you. So, speaking of keeping up with the new research, I follow Cohere for AI Discord events regularly, and I'd advise all my audience as well that it's a good platform to do so. And now I know that Cohere for AI started an initiative to build multilingual datasets, and something that you touched on earlier today. So, could you maybe tell us about this IA initiative? Like, what's the mission or vision behind this initiative?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it actually did start from the Cohere for AI Discord community. So we had this Discord, a place that anyone can join, and there are like people that are like at high school to just like assistant professors at different universities, and a lot of uh, organic collaborations happen in this community. Also, actually regarding your previous question, so there have been like reading groups that started. Like some people were discussing the same uh, topics of interest, and then together they decided to have like these regular reading groups on that topic. Like these sorts of things were happening on the Discord. And we were thinking what we can, like what type of project we can define that would actually like having this really like essentially this global reach of like people from around the world. And that was last year around the same
Mhm.
time that we thought, why not really trying to help the multilingual models, essentially see what we can do there. And the main problem and the main challenge in developing multilingual models is lack of data. So you have, when you look at non-English languages, there are still some resources online, but once you get past a few high resource languages and get to the like middle resource and definitely low resource languages, the the amount of data that is available is really not that good. Uh, and for language models, it's also important to have labeled data. So it's not just having web pages on the internet. So to train a pre-trained model, that's really a good resource. And that's also easier to find for a lot of these languages. But once you want to fine-tune these models to follow instructions and answer questions, you need these labeled data of like pairs of questions and answers in all of these languages. And that was one of the main blocking points that for many of these languages we were seeing. So that's how the Aya project actually came about. So we
Okay.
thought, let's build a data set that is these like kind of uh, pairs of prompts or questions and answers in all of the languages that we can, essentially. So looking at our Discord community, seeing who is interested, asking people to join. And we were also particularly careful to not really make it uh, too complex, so that you had to know how language models work in order to create that data. So we were just like hoping that it's a simple, so designing essentially a UI so that people can contribute. And we did that in a simple way so that you didn't really have to know like what is a good format of like data or like that type of things. Uh, and yeah, that was how it actually started. So we had a huge number of participation. So in the end, I think we had 3,000 users contributing to more than 100 languages. And expectedly, for some languages, there are a lot more contributions. For
Mhm.
some, there are less, depending on how many people are participating and how often. But yeah, in the end, we have created this really valuable resource that we are planning to release soon.
That's really great. I think yeah, there is definitely, so like it's like we have a lot of data sets, but then again we don't. That's what I feel like when it comes to like training data. Because why I say that, because in my university, I know that there are some of my peers who are working on multilingual like research, and they are specifically focusing on the low research languages because that's where they are from. So they are having like hard time finding the right data set. And yeah, when I found out about Aya initiative, I'm like, this is the place to go, people. I think the more people contribute, the bigger the data set get, and I guess it's the richer the data set will be. So yeah, thank you for sharing about your initiative. I think that it's very beneficial, and it will prove to be very helpful for many people.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And we, as part of this project, we have also been fine-tuning models on these data sets that we are collecting just to evaluate and see
Right.
whether how helpful they can be. And our plan is to also release these models that we are currently fine-tuning. So it's going to be a huge release of these like multilingual models with high coverage of languages that hopefully can help researchers and just like people who are interested in the field to build on top of. So that's one of our main goals for Aya, was that it's something that maybe we start together with the community, but
Mhm.
hopefully people can pick up and continue and use and build on top of. So
Right.
we really see it as just like a 1 year project that is over now.
Nice, nice. I'm looking forward to that, for sure. So, like speaking of models that are out there, we saw a huge spike in, the various GPTs that are there and similar other models in the last 2 years, give or take. So, do you think that this year is for multilingual models?
I mean, I think it's a very natural next step for a lot of these
Mhm.
models to go. So there have been, so even these like big releases of like GPT-4, like Palm, like these models, uh, they are predominantly English models, but they are still capable
Uh,
of. Oh,
Sorry, I think I lost you earlier. Could you
okay.
repeat what you said?
Yeah. So even with these like big releases of models like GPT-4, the Palm 2, Llama 2, these models, they are predominantly English models, but you can see in the reports that they release, they also do some evaluations on other languages. Uh, just because of as like a side effect of maybe like in the training data there are examples in other languages as well. So as far as at least we know, they didn't really target multilinguality, but they do show that these models are capable of like some translations of Spanish, like these sorts of tasks. But I think there is, I mean, I'm like my native language is Persian. Like once you start actually talking with these models in your languages, it's very like in the beginning you see that, oh yeah, it does understand this language, but it very quickly is clear that the quality is just not there for that language.
Mm,
So like I tried
mhm.
Persian with a lot of these models and it's not really working. So I think it's a very good and natural next step to try to make these models a bit more understanding of all of the languages of the world. But there's also this uh, there's always this like compromise that with if you don't change your computation power, so if with the same number of parameters of models and everything, then adding languages is really good for all of these new languages that you add to your data and your model, but it might also have a negative impact on the really high resource languages. So a multilingual model that is great on maybe like 50 different languages, it's not usually it's not the top performing model in English, for instance. So
Mhm.
there's also this compromise that if everyone is going to be moving towards multilingual models, I think that's also like one question of whether that will be the main model or like in addition to the English model, there might be these other more multilingual ones.
Fair enough. I like how you said like the natural next step. It's a really nice way to put it, and it actually just makes sense. We have so many models that are so well trained on the data, which is in English. I think, yeah, next step, yeah, especially with, applications like machine translation and all those translator apps. I think that totally should be the next step. So we talked about the LLMs and multilingual models, but towards the end of the day, the important question still remains, which is about how do you evaluate the performance or the quality of these models. So, in my experience, evaluating any large language models or machine learning model is crucial for any application. And I think accuracy and confusion matrix are good for the traditional ML models, but when it comes to these applications, like, whether it's text generation or assessing the quality of the chat with your bot, what do you think, like, how should one evaluate these results and performance from the language models?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one of the open questions currently in the field. So what I like to think about this is how uh, we originally we wanted to, with the field of NLP, we wanted to understand language, understand natural language of human beings,
Mhm.
and we essentially abstracted into these particular NLP tasks like translation, sentiment analysis, question answering. So we try to quantify language understanding into these tasks, and then depending on the current state of the models, the task difficulty was also close to that. So
Mhm.
you can imagine that if like all models are just like really at the beginning of development, like maybe like 20 years ago, then having these really complicated reasoning tasks wouldn't really make sense because everyone would fail. It doesn't tell us anything. But having these more simpler sentiment analysis tasks, maybe like these, those were really good to help the development of these models.
Mhm.
And as these models get better, so they're as we see also currently with language models, they will beat benchmarks and they will really like outperform everyone else on evaluation sets that are the current way of evaluating these models. But to my opinion, it doesn't necessarily mean that that particular problem is solved. It just means that
Right.
now we need a new benchmark and a new evaluation set. So I see the field of evaluation as this really dynamic way of adapting and adjusting with the current power and capabilities of models, and then uh, trying to see uh, in a sort of like uh, targeting specific capabilities and see how well they do, instead of
Right.
just trying to like define one particular metric
Mm.
or like one global measure to compare everyone together. So yeah, I think there have been also a great effort in research on creating this like kind of dynamic benchmarks that change, like people submit
Mhm.
new as to these whole line of evaluating models with other models. I think that's a very interesting research direction. And yeah, like people are coming up with new evaluation methods for the models every day.
Nice. So I think, do you think even with all the metrics that people are coming with, will there still be, I guess, the human evaluation like that? Will that still be needed, or will it be continued that, okay, no, I think, that human input is still required to fully tell someone that, okay, our LLM works perfectly, or this is how it works, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think if not in the evaluation process itself, in the creation of the evaluation data, there should be some
Hmm.
human
Input.
uh,
Hmm.
input involved. So I don't really think leaving everything to just like automatic ways and synthetic data and like all of this might not be really giving us the best signal. And we definitely need some sort of sanity checking or like some sort of we need some signal from human preference, and it can be at the just like doing manual evaluation of the outputs of the model, but it can also be like in different ways of creating like a particular data set, then we use that data set to rank models, like these sorts of
Hmm.
things. But I definitely think the human input, I don't see for now that for the near future at least, that we wouldn't need it. I feel like we would definitely do.
Right. I'm totally on board with that one. Nice. So, before I let you go, I know our time is nearing to end, but I love asking my guests some questions that could help those, curious minds who may be wondering how to get started into this field, or who are there but not sure which is the next step to take. So, for all those people who want to get started in research aspect, especially for large language models, and of course, provided that they have the foundation skills, what will you suggest them, either to get started or what should be their next step?
Yeah, I think I would definitely suggest reading, and not just reading the hottest current paper that is out, but just there are some basics that I think everyone, it's good that everyone, if they have read it, and finding a community and like some people to work together. So this can be like at your local university, there might be like some student group. Definitely online, there are different opportunities.
Mm.
Like at the Cohere for AI Discord, we see this happening sometimes. But finding people who are interested in the same maybe general topics that you are also interested is very useful because you can help each other grow. So reading papers together, coding together, trying to solve problems together, I find that is a really good way of supporting each other to grow. uh, and don't also in general be afraid or shy, because like it's not so if you look at the current innovations of the that has been going into to have these like large language models that are really impressive, they
Yeah.
are. Oh,
Sorry, again, today technical difficulties. I'll blame the weather. Could you repeat what you said towards the end?
yeah. uh, what I wanted to say. So one thing that I would also suggest and recommend is not to be shy, because the people who are experts in this field or like seem like they are experts in this field, they don't, like they are not ahead of you. They like this field really, like with the current state, it didn't start 50 years ago. Like with the
Right.
past 2 years of just like trying to, well, to maybe like 5, 10 years of trying to see what has been happening, you can very quickly become a knowledgeable person in that field. So it's not really like there's not a huge burden of literature and resources really to get you uh, knowledgeable. So I think it's maybe it might seem intimidating because there are a lot of new papers coming out every day.
Mm.
Uh, but that's really, if you want to get into this field, I don't think that's where you should start. You should start with the basics, and then once you have the you understand all of the components and how they work and the intuitions behind it, it's also much easier to understand new papers that come out every day.
Right, that makes sense. So, last but not the least, what do you, like? What are the top three resources for reading these research papers in AI or LLM specifically?
Uh, yeah, so I mean, it's like I said, usually trying to stay up to date on Twitter and like on our like Slack reading groups, like what everyone is sharing. I can actually also share uh, a good website that I have been at some point working on as well. So there's a company here in Amsterdam, Zeta Alpha, that they have been building this question answering slash search system on AI data. So having essentially processing archive papers and GitHub repositories every day, and then providing search on top of that. So that's also is a really good place to see. Uh, just try it out to see like if you are looking for a particular like you want to expand your knowledge on a particular topic. So like like you find something interesting and you want to find relevant papers for that. That's also a good place. uh, and yeah, I think in general, also trying to stay up to date with all of the, well, not all, but there are really
Mhm.
good podcasts and YouTube channels out there. I think that's also a good uh, way to, like a new or like a different source of information that you can get your updates from the field of AI.
Fair enough. Thank you for mentioning the podcast, guys. Listen to that. Podcasts are good. But yeah, thank you so much, Marzieh. It was really lovely chatting with you today. And yeah, once again, thanks for taking the time and being on my podcast. Really good things I learned. So yeah, thanks for sharing those.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed having this chat, and I hope you have a good day, and also your listeners have a good day.
Thank you.